Today, I'm continuing the fun by showing you how to use your painted papers, particularly transparent and translucent papers, into two easy breezy abstracted landscape collages. I'll share exactly how I get started, when to keep going, and when to stop. Like the stacked paper collage we did in a previous video, you can't get this wrong, and it's a great way to use up the papers in your collage stash. I'm Jackie Bernardi, and welcome to my studio. As I continue on my summer of fun journey, and the goal of the summer of fun really is to use up as many of my painted papers as possible. I've started this brand new art journal. It's a square art journal, and I have the intention of filling it this summer with as much fun collage as I possibly can using the painted papers that I've made over the past couple of years. Now, all the techniques that I'm using in this video have been shared in other videos, and I will link to them. In fact, I've created an entire playlist on creating transparent and translucent papers for work in collage. And I will link to that so you see that. But I'll also in this video tell you how I do it as I go so that you can see the most magical things that happen when you use transparency in your collage work. So, to get started, I literally just picked a single piece of paper and put it down. Now, the medium that I'm using to glue the papers to this collage is either matte medium or gloss medium. And what I'm doing right here by spraying this paper is making sure that it goes transparent. Now, that paper that I have in my hand is medical exam paper. And what I've learned over the years and what I have tested constantly is that if you spray medical exam table paper with water, put gloss medium under it and then gloss medium on top of it, it will go transparent. And I will link to the exact medical exam paper that I use in the description, but also it's linked to in every video that I'm linking to in the playlist. And you will learn why this works, how it works, and where you can get it wherever you are. So all I am doing at this point is just trying to figure out what's going to come up in this collage. Now, you know, because of the beginning of this video, that it's going to turn into abstracted landscapes. But at this point, when I started, I really did not know what I was going to do with this, where it was going to go. So at this stage in the process, all I'm doing are putting down papers that I like that go together, right? So with all this orange and teal that I'm doing on the upper left here, I'm just loving the way those colors are working together. And as I lay a color down on top of the other colors, because the papers that I'm using primarily are transparent, I know that some of the color from below is going to emerge through the colors on top, like you just saw here. And to me, that is incredibly exciting. It's a little bit of air of mystery and yet also some knowingness because I know these papers are going to go transparent. So I know the things below will emerge, but I'm not exactly sure how it will look each time. So this is the mystery, and this is what I love so much. What I'd like to say about these two collages is I hope that they will end up with a similar feel or a belongingness to one another. Uh, But if that doesn't happen, I will be okay. Again, summer fun, I'm just doing things that make me feel good as I create them. I'm not overthinking and I'm certainly not worrying. These are pieces inside my art journal. I'm not going to be selling these. I'm not going to be trying to promote anything with them. I'm just having fun. So the goal is to have them feel like they belong together, but if they don't, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to be okay with it all. Now, to start this collage, I grabbed probably, mm, 15 or 16 different papers that I had laying around. I wasn't overly concerned with the colors that I was choosing. However, once I gathered them all, I separated them out into color groups, into the yellows and the oranges and the blues and so on. And I saw that I had inadvertently collected really bright and intense colors. And I'm happy I did that. I'm very happy I did that actually, because of the way this is all coming together. Uh-oh. I hate it when I do that. What happened there was I had a very wet piece of paper and I was just being too aggressive in um, setting it down with a catalyst wedge and it got caught up on itself and it pulled up. The good news is because I am working so wet and I am using the gloss medium below these papers and above the papers, I was easily able to fix it. And that is one of the gifts when you're working wet with collage. And what I mean is not using paste. All right. So when you're using a medium, you're working what I consider to be wet. When you are working wet, you really do have a lot of opportunity to reposition things, even if you do that intentionally, not just from mistakes like the one that I just made. But I am quite happy with the way it resolved itself. Now, again, this here is another piece of medical exam paper, and you can actually see before I put it down that it was transparent. And because I'm using the transparency formula with the gloss medium and the water, I know that this will dry completely transparent, and those gorgeous colors underneath will emerge. And I'm really digging this. Now, in real time, the the total time I spent working on these 2 collages was pretty close to an hour, and so much of that was cutting and tearing time. Some of it was thinking time, some of it I just plainly got distracted by things, but to do 2 pages in this way on this particular day. It took me about an hour. Now, this video is much shorter than that, but I also edited out a lot of the cutting and so on because it was not important to the final product. Mostly the papers were torn, right? There's only cutting occasionally for edge type pieces because I do have a visual frame around the 2 collages and I wanted to keep that pretty intact. So I did cut edging for, or I should say, I did cut the papers for edging, if that makes any sense. Now, that brownish paper that I just laid down there, I remember making that paper, and that paper was not the medical exam paper. It was wet strength tissue paper, and I was using inks on the gel plate and pulling acrylic inks and pulling them up with the wet strength tissue paper. And that's some of that gorgeous burnt sienna that I had. Now, it seems to be an off color choice for these 2 collages, but I'm not going to worry about it yet because I have other papers I can put over it that may be able to bring the color up to some degree and or not. Either way, it's all good. And this piece of paper that I'm putting down right now is not transparent at all. In fact, this was a piece of paper that I made in another video. And if I can find which video it was, I will link to it in the description. But this is a very, very opaque piece of paper. First off, the paper itself is mixed media paper. And I painted actually on both sides of this paper. But the colors in it were so yummy to me. It was a very gentle pink, it was a very gentle yellow, and in the sea of all this brightness, I decided to use this paper, even though it's opaque, I decided to use it to give the eye some areas of rest in this very busy collage set. Does that make sense to you? I hope so. Even though there's quite a bit of color in that particular piece of paper, it is restful on my eye, and I think that's important even in abstracted collage to give places where you can have a little bit of calm. And I carried it over to the, collage on the right-hand side as well, just so there would be continuous continuity between the 2 collages. Even if they don't end up looking anything alike, the color story within them will have continuity, and that matters to me. It may not matter to you, and if you are doing this along with me, you should be doing whatever makes you feel good, right? I'm just here to serve as a guide and just to tell you some things that I've learned along the way. Oh, yeah. This pink, these pinks are really very special. And I think these also happen to be the acrylic inks that I used a few videos back. I'll link to it. And I was using the inks on a gel plate with these papers, and the color that is actually fluorescent pink, and I believe it's the Daler-Rowney inks, um, and they're lovely. Now, I can't list all the materials I used on all these papers because truly, these papers have been collected over the past couple of years. But when I do see a paper that I know how I made it or I remember how I made it exactly and what materials, I will call it out. Now we're getting to a point in the collage here where things are starting to make sense to me, and I am definitely starting to see something. And in fact, right here is where the magic started for me. And I know exactly what I'm seeing here and where this is going. I'm going to do quite a bit of layering here with different shades of the blue and the green because I do see a story emerging. It's not crystal clear to me yet. Yes, at this point, I am aware that this is becoming an abstracted landscape, but there's still so much going on. And not that there has to be a clear story here, but my body is feeling like the story on, at least on this right hand side of the page, that the story needs more clarity. So I want to create some unity between all of these bright colors. So I just took that large piece of blue that was on medical exam paper. So I knew once I put it down, it would go transparent. And you could still see all the colors underneath, but that blue harmonized all of the colors underneath and created like a darker sky, almost like a late afternoon, early evening in the summertime type sky. And I'm so happy I just happen to have that piece of blue transparent paper. And this is the truth, I think, about painting papers. If you don't rush to use them, which I do not rush to use them, I let them gather, I create a large stash. What I find is that when I finally do use them, I can actually use them to create things. Like, I can find a way to make a story because I have more than enough materials that I can jump into without having to create new materials. And if you get anything from today's video, I hope it's that some of you write to me saying, "But what do I do with all the papers?" And my response a lot of the time is hang on to them. If you haven't discovered how to use them yet, your time for those papers is coming. I really believe this. And so, because I am in a stage now where I need to cull back the amount of papers that I have, I am just going forward almost recklessly and using them, and I'm loving what's happening. Now, because I have a story going on the right-hand side, I'm now looking at the collage on the left-hand side with different eyes, right? I have something I can attach it to, and all of a sudden, even on the left side, I see an abstracted landscape emerging here as well. Are these two a continuation of each other? I don't know yet, but I am feeling like there's parity here, and that makes me really happy. It makes my eyes happy. I hope it's making your eyes happy. Uh, but I promised at the beginning that I would tell you how I know when to keep going and when to stop. And everything in my body is telling me to keep going on both pieces, even though the one on the right hand side is feeling pretty good to me now. It's not done, and I just feel that. It could be done, and I'd be perfectly happy with it if it were done right now, but it does need something else, says Jackie to me, right? So if you hear the voice, the creative voice inside of you telling you not to stop, to keep going, listen to it. It's probably giving you great advice. And I'm super happy that I was listening to it here, especially on this left-hand side. Look at this. I mean, I can actually see mountains emerging out of this space right now. Where that yellow triangle is in the middle of this section is feeling like the opening from a valley looking into the distance into the sunset or sunrise, not sure yet. But I'm seeing something formulate here that was completely unintended, you know, half an hour ago, and now is really showing up. I'm gonna give that a rest, okay? So, I may be done with it, I may not be done with it, but for the moment, I'm giving the left-hand side a rest. And I wanted to go back to this right-hand side because this is bringing up a memory for me. I grew up in upstate New York, and what's happening here is I feel like I am at one of the lakes in the Adirondack Mountains, and it's at dusk, and that there's a storm coming in. Red sky at night, sailor's delight, right? And so looking at this piece, I felt like it needed that tinge of red across the top to make that sky, that threatening storm sky may come in, yet it's still beautiful. If you're from upstate New York, my dad used to always say, there must be a storm in Remsen, right? Remsen was the place that always had these big storms. And this is the moment that I'm having with this. Both these pieces have made me so happy today. Are they done? I'm not sure. So here's the final result of when to know if it's done. Sometimes you just have to walk away from it. Today, I'm walking away from this, but I'm so happy with what has happened here with these transparent papers. If you would like to be notified when the next video in this series comes out, I always send an email to my list every week to let them know. So please sign up with the link in the description below or in the first comment. Thank you so much for being here.